Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Inclusively You podcast, a space dedicated to amplifying the voices and highlighting persons with disabilities. I'm your host, Kayan Vaz, so excited to be back with you this week. I would like to say a special thanks to those who are downloading and sharing the episodes. Really appreciate it. And please remember to follow us on our Instagram page, Inclusively You Podcast, or email us at inclusivelyu@gmail.com. We would love to hear from you so that you can share your stories with us. Our guest today is someone who's living life to the fullest. She hails from the parish of Westmoreland, but now resides in Ottawa, Canada. She was born with a limb difference impacting both upper limbs. Refusing to let her physical challenges define her, she constantly pursues empowerment and representation. Through her vibrant presence on social media, she champions the normalization of diverse abilities, proving that obstacles can be overcome with determination and a positive mindset. She attributes her unwavering attitude towards her faith in God and to the unwavering support from her mom, Veronica Malcolm, as well as her family and friends who have always embraced her, making her feel included and unstoppable. She currently works in human resources and is pursuing a master's degree in counseling psychology. In her own words, she describes herself as just a girl with a limb difference doing things differently, embodying the spirit of tenacity and inclusivity. Inclusively, you listeners, please help me welcome Shay Reid. Shay, I'm in love with your tag or your slogan or your philosophy that you go by, just a girl with a limb difference doing things differently. At what age did you realize, wait a minute, I am unique?
Um, I guess from a very young age noticed, I noticed. When I started writing, my mom said I never did anything the right way, so to say. I didn't started creeping. I started doing this weird thing of just kind of like pulling on my bum, which was strange to hear when she describes it. And then I just walked after that. I started off writing with my toes. So when I got to the point of going to school, I kind of noticed no one else was doing that, writing with their toes. But for me, that kind of was instinctively what I thought I was supposed to be doing. But then eventually I noticed again kids not doing the same things that I'm doing. So, okay, how can I mirror what I'm seeing? So, I guess now looking back, I could probably say that's maybe some of the earliest memories I have of me recognizing that I'm different and doing things differently since that young age, but not to I wouldn't say I fully embrace this idea of me being unique um, all the time because obviously there were moments of challenge in terms of how I think others kind of started to view me. So this uniqueness was no longer like a superpower, but more so, oh my gosh, this is how the world is, not necessarily my family, but this is how the world would see me. So I guess
Okay.
it kind of started there.
And speaking about challenges, describe for us your journey attending various institutions here in Jamaica, because we are aware of the limitations that we have on the island as it
Mhm.
relates to accessibility for persons with disabilities. So, can you share with us those experiences that you encountered?
Well, I will say I've had positive experiences with going to school. So
Awesome.
I went to quote unquote normal primary school. I went to the Little London Primary School, and my teachers there were amazing. If I needed extra time or anything, which oddly enough I never needed extra time with doing schoolwork, but I've always kind of felt like I had that space. I didn't at the time, I didn't know that I could require anything else because I never used prosthetic arms. So I was just writing as normal, and that was okay for me. I remember when it was time for me to do my GSAT exam. My teachers were concerned about the length of the exam, and that's the first time they had spoken to my mom about would Shay need extra time. And I remember my response was, if I don't know it in the first hour, if it's 15 minutes extra, it's not gonna let me know it. So um I don't know that I needed extra time, nor would I know what to do with said extra time. So I can honestly say at that point, that's kind of, I think that's where the accommodation piece may have come in. I don't know what was happening behind the scenes, if that was a requirement that was sent to the ministry on my behalf, but I do know the conversation came up. And I don't know if I had the extra time given to me anyways. I just knew that I had the mindset of if I don't know it now, you give me 3 hours, I still won't know it. So
Hmm.
I never really took that on. And I
Right.
had that same mindset as I went to Manning School, which was where, after my GSAT, that's where I was placed, Manning School in Westmoreland. And I took the same approach. Like for CXC, I didn't ask or got extra time. I don't think I don't recall an accommodation form, like officially. If that was in the back end, I didn't know about it. But that was my mindset all through high school. If I had a test to do, I would finish it within the time that was provided. I think a part of me was at that point was saying, I don't want to require anything extra to
Mm.
make me feel more different, so to say. But and thinking about it now, there's nothing wrong if I had needed extra time. Whether
Right.
that extra 15 minutes would have been for me to review what I had there. But my mindset then was I must be as quote unquote normal as possible. I cannot be sitting in the room alone and every one of my friends are gone and so on. So I think that's where the mindset was. And that followed me all the way to when I went to UE. Again, never asked for it. Don't think I had needed it based on how I, I guess, how I programmed my mind or the mentality that I took towards it. And it was not a case where it wasn't offered to me. I can honestly say if it is that I needed it, did I know where to find, go to ask for it, especially as I got older when I went to UE? I don't know that I knew where to get it because it was not something that was on my radar. But yeah, I just kind of took it like I'm gonna roll with the punches. I'm
Hmm.
not gonna be bothered by it.
Wow. And I'm very happy to hear that person's created that space for you. As you
Mm-hmm.
said, not knowing if they did the extra work or made special arrangements. But the fact is, you were able to just sort of, uh, yeah, just in one with everyone else and not
Mm-hmm.
allowing the pressures of, oh my goodness, I'm different. And,
Mm-hmm.
but just to really push through and get through both Little London, Manning's Hill, and of course, UA. Uh, but I know for sure that you are very much passionate about representation. And
Yeah.
I have seen your social media pages, and let me tell you, it's a masterclass. So, how has the digital space helped with your cause?
Um, it wasn't always like this, to be fully honest. If you had met me back in 2015, 2012, back when I was at UE, the space that I have that I hold now for the fact that yes, this is my reality, this is fine. It wasn't always like this. For the most part, I wasn't always the one that would post full body pictures of myself. I would like post like my torso. I wasn't really embracing the fact that this was me, to be honest. Like who knew me knew, but on the internet, I wasn't kind of posting it up like that. And I think one of the main reasons for that was I didn't see anybody else like me kind of being out there like that. So I'm like, okay, if I were to post a picture, what would I be met with ridicule? Would I get teased? Not to say that I think I would have, yeah, it would have bothered me a little bit, I think, because that's people on the internet saying these things about you. In my day to day, I didn't have that experience around my friends, but for some reason, I felt the need that this digital space was not where I needed to show off myself. But I think that all changed probably back in 2020. I can't recall it being sooner, but I do remember back in 2020, in the middle of the pandemic, the
Pandemic,
world the
right.
world kind of froze and I had way more time to think about myself and where I wanted to be. I recall seeing this little girl. Her mom posted a picture. She has no arms. She's about, I can't remember how old she was, but her mom posted a picture about her getting bullied and all of that. And I'm like, people are afraid of what they don't know. And I remember growing up in Jamaica, Jamaican people not afraid to ask a question. Like I'd be going about my day and random people walk up to me, how you right? How you do this? How you do that? Very in your face. And me never like it, to be fully honest, because me like, seriously, like
Yeah,
there's a time and place to be a question this. So I remember seeing that video and that was the moment where I'm like, okay, I think I'm going to start kind of posting things more about myself, kind of being more vocal. And in doing so, I started following a bunch of different accounts on Instagram, especially. The Lucky Finn Project was one of them. And I saw through that page, I kind of started to follow a bunch of the other creators on there because the Lucky Finn Project highlights people born with limb differences from all over the world. And I thought that was so amazing. I'm like, yo, they're big people, they're little people, they're grown-ups that have my disability and that are doing amazing things. And I'm like, this is worth showcasing. So I think that's kind of when I started reposting a lot of this on my Instagram, especially because I held space for the fact that I know my friends and family, they experience me because, I'm in their world. But for so many others that I found on the Lucky Finn group, where my friends would never, people in my circle would never know about them because they might never encounter them. So I thought it
right.
was important to start to kind of showcase that, yo, these people exist and they're doing amazing things that, is worth highlighting. And again, in hopes of, I think that little girl Shay that was still there thinking it would have been nice for me to see people like this on the internet, in the media when I was growing up, to help with that validation and
Validation
reassurance.
and represent. Yeah.
Yeah, like, you know what? It's fine. Like, you're this way and it's okay. You're gonna grow up to do whatever you want to do, be whatever you want to be, and it's okay.
Right.
So,
Thank you so much for sharing that, the importance of saying, you know what? It wasn't always like this. The person that you're seeing now, who's so bold and so confident, came, of course, with a lot of work and acceptance, and as well
mhm,
connecting with others within the
mhm,
digital space to let you know that you're not alone. And with that journey, of course, something spectacular has happened where you're now sitting in the seat as a human resource practitioner. It's a double-barreled question, but let me just ask, what attracted you to wanting to become a human resource practitioner? And how have you been able to influence or, to share with your organization or your team, of course, the importance of inclusion?
Um, to answer the first part of the question, I always had like, I studied psychology when I was at UE, but I feel like, was there a space for me to use my degree in psychology just by itself? I wasn't too sure. So on the off chance, I took like a few. I took an HR course and I'm like, okay, I like it. I see the connection between the people part and also like the organizational standpoint of it. So I'm like, okay, cool. When I came to Canada, the idea was I didn't see a pathway straight away to maybe go back into psychology. That wouldn't take me a long time. So that's when I kind of said, okay, I'm going to try human resources. And that's how I ended up being in human resources. In terms of where I am now working in HR, I cannot honestly say that I have used my position to influence a lot of changes in terms of inclusivity and people with disability. I do know that my team, my manager, she has experienced what it is like to work with a person with a disability in terms of the resourcefulness, the creativity, the resilience. I can see that and I hear that validation come through from her from time to time. And I recognize that in my ways of thinking about things, especially the hiring process, for me, because I know what I've gone through, and whenever I find myself in a situation where I am conducting an interview with a hiring manager, may not be somebody with a disability, but for me, it has always been let us focus on what the person is bringing to the table, what they are able to
Right.
do, what are their
Yes.
capabilities, what are their skills. That for me takes precedence all the time. And in that way, I try to be very vocal with my feedback, especially when I'm invited to participate in interviews. And I think about it too in terms of um, just kind of judging a book by the cover in a way. Like, let me know what you can do. If you need help with something, like, it's okay to ask for it. And as much as this is hard for me, asking for help is hard for me because of the fact that in a part of me is like this is going to show that you don't have the capacity, you don't have the capability to do it, and that might ring negatively to somebody else. So I'm like, no, no, I must do it by myself. But I also can hold space for the fact that as a person with a disability, if I need help, I must be able to ask for the specific help that I need and to trust that I can receive that help that I need. So it
Wow.
always goes back to finding out from the person, what help do you need? How can I help you? And not to assume that this person is this way, they are going to need the kitchen sink. They might not need the
Mm.
kitchen sink. I remember when I started at my current job, my manager wanted to find out if I needed any sort of special keyboard, if I needed a special type of mouse, any accommodation that would make work easier for me if I needed any of that. And the fact that she asked those questions, that was very good. And I appreciated that because it says to me, she recognizes it might be challenging, it might be difficult, but she's also putting it back on me to let her know how she can be supportive in this journey of work.
Wow. That's amazing. And, just listening to your experiences in Canada and how you were able to occupy that space and to again see persons for who they are, what value they're bringing, instead of sort of, how we are as humans, as you say, judge a
Mm-hmm.
book by its cover. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, just the fact that you're able to do that is really commendable, and it really points to uh segue into another question, because again, here in Jamaica, there are a lot of steps that are being made, the Disabilities Act being passed in 2022, but there's a lot of work to be done. What kind of changes would you like to see implemented here in your home country to improve accessibility and inclusion? Because I know you travel back and
Mm-hmm.
forth,
Yeah.
so, comparing what you've experienced then when you used to live here to know, what are some of the actual things that we can improve on?
I think the first part of it is the accommodation. I remember I think there was a post but that was done by somebody for a young man who has autism.
Mm.
And he finished school, he was trying to get a job and everything, but because he's autistic and based on his social skills or whatnot, not maintaining eye contact and in the whole interview process. I remember him and his mother talking about how hard it was for him. And, I felt I identified with him in so many ways. I wish I had remembered his name. I identify with the process that he was going through because yes, you might not be able to do things this set way that everybody else is, but what accommodations can be made to, again, back to what I said before, focus on what he brings to the table. So, yes, he might interview and not be able to maintain eye contact. Yes, some of the questions might take him a little while to actually get to the
Mm,
answer that you're looking for, but how can you accommodate somebody like this in the interview process so that they're back to this whole idea of equity, not necessarily equality, but
equity.
equity. How can you allow him to stand on the same level as everybody else? And I feel like a lot of that is thinking about what accommodations can be made during the interview process when somebody like this enters the world of work. And again, let employers have this as well that, you know what, we may have different people coming, we may have people with disability coming into the workspace, coming into the interview process. Do we have plans in place to accommodate whatever needs they have to make this process equitable for them and to allow them to feel like, you know what, they had they had a good they had a good experience and they felt like they were seen and not the fact that they had a limitation or a disability took center stage to what they could possibly have provided.
Wow, great recommendations. I completely agree with you. Just allow for the space uh, for persons to at least feel as if they're accepted. Because when you put these barriers up, what you're saying is what I see is just your disability. I'm not
Mhm.
seeing the actual skill sets that you're coming with. So those are some great recommendations that you have shared. And I hear the human resource side coming out, Shay. I hear the human resource side coming out. Um, but we're gonna close off. But just to finish off today's conversation, what's your message for those who are listening right now from the community and for those outside of the community who may not necessarily understand? What's your words of encouragement or, recommendations then for those who may feel like I'm at my end rope, I feel like giving up? What are your words of encouragement for them?
I mean, I totally understand that being at that end of the rope kind of thing. But for me, I've had very supportive family. I have very supportive friends. And those are some of the people that I've leaned on when I've gotten to that point of, oh my gosh, things aren't working out my way. So having that support is very, very important. I also think that the internal motivation is definitely needed because as a person with a disability, you're gonna hear everything. You're gonna experience things that should break you, but I feel like it has to come from inside to say, you know what, I know this is challenging, but this is what I want, and no matter how challenging it gets, I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep going not on my strength, but on God's strength. Because when I look at
Yes.
some of the things that I have been able to do, there is no rhyme or reason. Science or physics cannot explain some of the things that I see myself doing. And there are moments when I just have to take a step back and be like, yo, God just really decided to show off though, because I don't understand how I could if it wasn't for Him. And for people who are outside of the community, it's a matter of just holding space for the fact that this is a person. So do not let your curiosity kind of run so wild that you're being so intrusive and the questions that you're having are not questions from a good place or a kind and caring place. If you see somebody with a disability, treat them as you would another person. If
Mm,
they need help, they will ask. they will ask you. If they are feeling comfortable, they will ask you. But create the space that allows them to feel one, like a person of value, and just like anyone else who you would interact with. It doesn't have to be different. And on the last thing, allowing your kids to know that people with different abilities, people with disabilities exist, and at the crux of it, to lead with kindness. Because a
Yes.
lot of times kids act the way that they see their parents
Parents.
do.
Yes.
So just to kind of educate them a little bit. And I know with kids, especially the younger ones, I've had kids ask me the same questions 10 million times. Oh, what happened to your hand? Oh, what happened to your hand? And I get it. They will forget, but to continue having the conversation that, this is how I was born. A lot of people may are born differently with disabilities or end up being disabled, and that's okay too. Just to the level where they will understand it, to just kind of start the process that way, because they're the future. They're who are going to continue to kind of hold the space as we age and so on. So, yes,
Oh,
that would be my little message.
thank you so much, Shay Reid, for that. Great words of encouragement for those who are tuning in and for those who will be downloading this episode. If you would like to follow Shay's journey, you can follow her at I_am_Shay_Reid on all her social media platforms. And again, I just want to say I do applaud you for the work that you've been doing, especially within the digital space, just showcasing your everyday journey. I am still in awe of that. Well, I need to actually start my own facial routine and self-care routine because I'm like, yeah, self-care is real.
It
So
is.
um, I really want to say thank you so much for just putting yourself out there without any sort of fear. And as you said earlier, it took you a while to get there, and we're happy that you did. We would also like to inform our listeners April is Financial Literacy Month, and we will be sharing with our listeners a wealth of knowledge about how you can gain financial freedom. So you have to tune in for those episodes that will be coming in April. That's where I leave you for today's Inclusively You podcast. Until next time, I am Keon Vaz.